Hi everyone, welcome to our AI-powered talent acquisition webinar. My name is Daniel Plew of Learning and Development TDCX, and I will be your host for today's video. Talent acquisition is a crucial function in today's human resource management, and recently it has witnessed many advancements because of technology that we have today, especially artificial intelligence. Today's discussion will revolve around how AI has become an integral part of HR and how it is impacting the talent acquisition teams. How AI will help solve some of the most formidable challenges for HR professionals and also ensure that businesses are ahead of the competition and contributing to their bottom line. Let me introduce our speakers for today's session. First guest speaker brings with her 15 years of an array of experience with over 8 years in recruitment. She is also a former software developer, and she says that her exposure to the BPO industry is something she values immensely, as this is where she has learned many money can't buy skills. She is currently TDCX's Global Executive Search Director, Sheetal Doshi. Our next guest speaker is founder and director at 9 Yards Innovation, a boutique innovation consulting firm headquartered in Singapore. They work with senior leaders who want to place people and data at the heart of innovation, bringing in-depth expertise in behavioral analytics that is HR and CX focused. Her team has led award-winning projects starting from Singapore, Malaysia, India, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, London, I know that's a mouthful, and also New York. She loves mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs and startups, navigating social and data science, placing behavioral analytics at the heart of innovation. We have Shiva Demeester. Now, hi ladies, welcome to our webinar session for today. I'd like to ask Sheetal my first question. I hope you're ready.
I am.
All right, Sheetal, the first question is, how has recruitment evolved over the past few years, and what are the main changes that you have observed?
Thank you, Dan, for the question. Hello to you, Shiva, and everyone who's watching. Wow, evolution of recruitment, right? You know, I've seen the recruitment scene go through a 360-degree change. It's gone through a big transformation, and I believe it's for the better. Recruitment in the good old days, when we received a job order, the first thing that will pop up in a recruiter's mind is, who's the first person you're going to make a call to, who's going to lead you to the right candidate. Today, we receive a job order, we put it up on a portal, and within minutes, we receive so many applications. We quickly are able to make a short list of the candidates with the right skills and start making connections and take the process through. So to your question, technology has made recruitment more accessible, both for recruiter and the candidate as well. The accuracy of hiring is far greater, and the speed of hiring is much faster. So if I were to summarize it in a nutshell, it's become more efficient and effective from what it used to be.
Very interesting. Thank you, Sheetal. Now, Shiva, the next question is for you. In line with this, what are the latest trends that we have right now, specific on HR technology and HR analytics, and how are the trends affecting our recruitment?
Okay, thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. First of all, I think there's many things that we can cover in this question, but let me just focus in on things that personally excite me. And so when we basically look at HR departments, what I find tremendously exciting is that we see them tapping into real-time data that's available in systems. And so basically what that means is, think about onboarding and how well people are connecting to other people in organizations. That data is available, and that data is currently being used. And especially in COVID times, where we know that one of the struggles of onboarding is, are people connecting with other people in the organization? We can now measure that using data available in systems. Likewise, if you look at subjects such as mental health, work pressure, work-life balance. Currently, in applications such as Microsoft Teams even, there's lots of information available on how many calls did people have in a day? Did they work after hours? Did they work on the weekends? And so that is extremely powerful information to then talk about work pressure and mental health. And that is being used, and I find that tremendously exciting. For recruitment specifically, something I'm very passionate about is the fact that companies are not only looking at what I would label a little bit as long, boring, and impersonal personality assessments. And they're currently actually migrating to other tools to measure personality, such as NLP. So NLP is natural language processing, basically how we are communicating. So whether, it's basically what you're saying and how you're saying it, and basically predicting personality from there. And that's being used to kind of analyze open-ended questions in chatbots, looking at video interview questions, and you can basically analyze personality within seconds for 1,000 people that apply. And I find that just amazing.
It is truly amazing, Shiva, and thank you for sharing that. It's extremely insightful. Now, we all know technology and the insights we're gaining are important in our lives, and it's interesting to understand how much it's true for talent acquisition as well. Now, Shital, the next question is for you. With all this amazing technology around, how do companies make sure they always offer great candidate experience?
Interesting question, right? And it's a big buzzword now. When we speak of candidate experience, one would analyze every touch point a candidate makes with an organization. So it starts from the very moment a candidate actually reads a job description on any of the given platforms, through the process of making an application, going through the interview, and throughout the onboarding process until the candidate joins the organizations. So that is the summary of a candidate experience. Now, how we do it differently at TDCX is we start from the very first touch point. Our JDs are curated to be accurate. So we target the right applications from day one. When we make the first touch point as a recruiter, we take the time to explain to candidates that we have a clear purpose of the role and what the growth path is going to be like. So they understand exactly what they're getting into. We make sure in our conversations that the culture and the DNA of TDCX comes across. We help our candidates make decisions faster, whether this role is for them or not. At the same time, we offer quick decision-making at our end too. And what this means is, once you make a shortlist into a role, we usually set up panel interviews. And our tools help us to schedule faster anyways, but the applicants don't have to go through a rigorous process, meeting different stakeholders at different times. It becomes repetitive and it impacts candidate experience. So at any level that we are hiring at TDCX, we believe in running panel interviews. And everyone comes on board and quickly makes decisions. The other thing that also helped in candidate experience is giving them feedback and closing the loop. Imagine yourself being a candidate and not knowing for months till end whether you made it or not, and whatever happened to the interview you gave. So we believe in giving feedback. And sometimes you don't land the opportunity. More often than not, you do not land the opportunity. But giving candidate feedback always helps to help them understand where the gaps were. And it equips them to be prepared for the future, whether it's with TDCX or other organizations.
Yeah, and maybe you can just add on to that is the fact that we have to be mindful also of the time that people invest in the application process, and actually giving them feedback makes it a lot more meaningful for them. Like they feel like they have not wasted their time, but they're still gaining something out of it. I think that's quite powerful.
I absolutely agree.
Definitely agree with that.
Mhm.
And it gives them the perception that we're a receptive organization, which is something that we are, and it anchors a future candidate. So sometimes opportunities don't happen for today and now, but we always believe in looking forward.
Wow, thank you. I love that, it's still very human. The approach is still very human, and there's still an emphasis on our core values in TDCX. Now, Shiva, one of the biggest hurdles of talent acquisition is bias, right? Because it's absolutely inherent in human nature. Will AI empower TA to solve this?
Okay, it's a difficult question. So, if we look at what has happened in the markets, like a couple of years ago, one big tech giant, quite last minute actually, decided not to launch their recruitment algorithm because it was basically discriminating females or women at the workplace. And so the question there is, how did that happen? And in machine learning specifically, because AI is quite broad, right? I mean, now we're zooming in for recruitment,
Right.
machine learning. Machine learning specifically, there's two ways that bias can creep in. Firstly, we have to remember that we're using historical data to build a model, right? So if that historical data is biased, then the model will be biased. That's very simple. But there's ways that you can examine that. And so the first thing that you do as a data scientist is you'll take that sample data and you'll analyze it to see whether there's any biases. And some things are easy to check, like, are certain groups under or over represented? That's very easy to check. But sometimes it's not that easy, and you have to go to robust analysis to see, does nationality have any impact? And so if it does have any impact, the question is, why is that? And so is that because of the location? Is that because of language? Is that because of certain traits that these people actually share, and therefore there's this influence? So it's really about understanding the biases that exist in the data and then trying to remove them. Now, once you have done that and you're building your final predictive model, that's where you basically do not include these variables because you don't want it to be biased. So in our case, and what we've done for TDCX as well, is we've basically looked at performance and then personality or behavioral traits. And so it does not at all look at things such as gender and so on. And in fact, it is avoiding those variables altogether. The second way that bias can creep in is the fact that in some cases, a person is actually training a machine. And so when that person is biased, then the machine will also pick up on that bias. And the only thing I can say is that every single person dealing with data needs to be an expert in biases, knowing how to recognize them and how to avoid them.
Thank you, Shiva. I think that's a very important point to make today. Back to you, Shadal, and let's now zoom in a bit more on TDCX, if that's okay. We know that TDCX has developed its own hiring technology, and we call it FlashHire. Now, could you please share with us more about it, and how does it actually help us, both applicants and recruiters in TDCX?
Sure, Dan. You asked me about a tool that TDCX is most proud of. So it's very simple. When a recruiter posts a job advert on any platform, a candidate is routed to FlashHire, and then the candidate takes the application through on our platform and is guided step by step to ensure each portion of the application is complete. Now, this could be from details on the individual, him or herself, past and present experience, personality tests, video tests included, right? It becomes a one-stop portal for your application. You do not need to email a recruiter separately, providing details or chasing up. Everything happens on the platform itself. You will know if you've made a short list or if you will be scheduling for an interview and what sort of happens next. In fact, even if there was a rejection for that role, there is a conversation that is triggered. So we always, like I mentioned earlier, believe in closing the loop. So that's on the candidate side of things. On the internal side of things, in terms of an organization and as a recruiter, the way FlashHire is built, and thanks to our partners and the great innovation team that we have in-house, it's a performance-driven tool. So what does that really mean, right? It really learns from the profiles, the successful profiles that we've hired of our best performers, and it finds the best match candidate in our future applicants. So we keep bettering our algorithm, so to speak, and we get to the goal of finding the best fit candidate. And what that does is actually helping us refine our hiring process. It significantly reduces recruitment time, helps us reduce cost. With that, it increases productivity of our recruiters, and we find more accurate candidates for the role. So some numbers to share in terms of the productivity of the recruitment team. Our productivity went up by 62% with FlashHire.
We're using it right now, right, Sheetal?
Yes.
Wow, I love that we have this technology in TDCX, and I'm learning so much today, and it really does, you know, help us in our recruitment. Good to know that we have this amazing technology. Now back to you, Shiva. I know that we partnered with you to refine FlashHire. How do we make sure that our models continuously improve over time?
Okay, so we specifically, I mean, just to kind of like zoom in on the little part that we have done in the FlashHire, because obviously, as Sheetal mentioned, the internal team has to completely build it. So where we have come in is basically to help with the data models that are driving some of the traffic lights that are in there in terms of which candidates to prioritize and kind of reach out to first. And so we have basically, as mentioned before, looked at performance and how well people are performing in the organization, and then what we can learn about these people's profiles. And so in terms of continuous improvements, now one thing to remember is if you're building and using data models, this is not a one-time exercise, right? Data is constantly evolving, and just think about like what your life looked like pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, where you were working, who you were meeting with, what you were buying. Now imagine that we've built a model pre-COVID about spending habits, totally unrelated, but just imagine, like, and if we would still be using that today, would it be relevant? Well, it wouldn't be relevant, right? And so likewise, when we're looking at data, we really have to question the data that we're using. And in this case, the performance measures are not changing luckily overnight, right? And the data that we're using is still relevant. But that being said, you still need to constantly update a model. And so for TDCX specifically, we're looking at 3 to 6 months. And then basically we have to retrain the model with the new data that comes in, because we have a constant inflow of people in different accounts, and that needs to be taken into account.
Nice, thank you, Shiva. That's very interesting and promising, and I can't wait to see the results. Now, my next question would definitely be for both of you, ladies. And I'd like to know, I want to hear from both of you. How do you see recruitment in 5 years from now? We can start with Sheetal.
Sure, Dan. I think all I can say for recruitment, there is no turning back. Technology is driving it, as you can see it. It keeps getting better and better. It keeps getting faster. It's going to be more targeted, more impactful, and more efficient in every way possible.
Nice. How about you, Shiva?
Ooh, okay, so there's a couple of things. So I think, first of all, when we look at some areas of life, I believe that data privacy will become more and more important. But on the flip side, for other areas of life, I believe we will have full transparency. And so just think about a resume. These days, people are tweaking resumes as they go. And companies invest a lot of money in going for background checks to see whether people have have studied somewhere and whether they have really worked somewhere. Now, with some technologies like blockchain, it's possible to make that fully transparent to potential employers, where your education certificates will be locked in, your work history will be locked in, your referrals might be locked in, and even some people talk about performance reviews, which I find a bit scary, but it is technically possible to kind of have that information available there. So it becomes fully transparent, so no more resume tweaking. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, more within the field that we're very passionate is data and the amount of data that's available about candidates. But it's not just how do we use it to make our lives easier as recruiters, how do we also use it to benefit candidates? And some recruitment journeys are very long and there's a lot of tests to do. But now with data, we kind of know a lot about you already. So why not just focus on the things that we really want to know in addition and send you just the targeted questions and tests that we need to gain more insight on, and that's it. So it's basically using the data to hyper-personalize the candidate experience to make it as short as possible. And then last but not least, looking at my notes. Last but not least, everyone in recruitment, I believe, should have a basic of data science and being able to understand predictive models, machine learning, and they don't have to be able to do it, but they have to be able to understand the implications of it and how to interpret data. So basically for everyone that's in recruitment today, I think that's a field to explore more because it will be a must-have in the future.
Thank you. Those are great insights. Now we are reaching the end of our session. I don't want this to end. I want, to be asking more questions, ladies, but I have one more. I think I have one more question for you. Yes, I do. All right, so let's end this video with a positive note. What advice would you give to our candidates out there? Let's start with you, Shiva.
Okay, very, very simple, I think, is, Chantal has touched upon it earlier, the fact that applications or applying for a job rather it can be very easy these days. And in some job boards, it's literally applying with one click and that's sending off your resume. Now, because of that, for some, and especially entry levels, for some people, it's become a bit of a brainless activity where they kind of look at a job, they say, well, it looks interesting, let me just see what comes out of it, and they apply. Now, I would encourage or advise people to actually reflect upon yourself, like what is a job that you want to do and what's the company that you want to join, and spend really some time on, not just what can I do or what can I not do, but also what is sparking joy, basically.
Thank you, Shiva. How about you, Shital? What advice would you give our candidates out there?
I think to build from what Shiva said, as a recruiter, we really appreciate when candidates do their homework, whether it's on the organization or on the role itself. Learn a little bit more about the role, what aspirations you have, and what might become of it if you were to get the position or the role that was offered to you. We always appreciate that. We want to hear more from you and not what's on the paper already, because that's something we can read. But we have those interviews to get to know candidates a little better. So that sets you apart from the other candidates. That's your differentiator. So think about that a little bit when you're going through the first face-to-face interview. I think I would say be yourself and drive yourself to be more.
Thank you. That's a great advice, Shital. Now, great insights, amazing tips. Thank you very much for sharing. Now, TDCX peeps, this brings us to the end of our AI-powered talent acquisition webinar. For those of you who have questions, we welcome those questions, guys. So please get in touch with us. We'll be sharing contact details for people to direct your questions to us. There you have it. For now, I would like to thank our wonderful, amazing speakers today. Thank you very much for your time, Shiva and Shetal. And to our viewers, watch out for our next webinar videos. Please stay safe and always remember, be more.